So let's have a little chat, shall we? Let's have a little occult chat. This is your host, The Occult View. Chow, I made this video a couple of minutes ago, but I said I want to remake it because I don't want to add something that I had added in it. I had mentioned somebody in that video that I don't want to mention, so I'm not going to mention that person. So, anyway, I want to discuss the conversation that took place between Monique and Club Shay Shay, aka Shannon Sharp. And that interview was absolutely fire. It was 3 hours. And even though I have been critical of Monique in the past, I'm always interested in what she has to say. For whatever reason. I mean, that's a guilty pleasure of mine. But I'm always interested in what she has to say because she really exposes a lot of what happens behind the scenes in that industry. Lover or hater, she exposes a lot of stuff that goes on, a lot of unjust stuff, a lot of injustice, a lot of betrayal and backstabbing that goes on inside of Black Hollywood. And these are the people that some of y'all be looking up to, like the Kevin Harts and Steve Harveys and Oprah Winfrey's and Tyler Perry's. Y'all look up to these people. I don't. And when I say y'all, I'm not really talking to the people that watch me. I'm talking to the ones who look at them and think they can't do any wrong. We can all admire a person's work. We can all admire people. But just because you have a black face does not mean that I'm going to turn a blind eye to the things that you do. Because oftentimes in the black community, black people think that they can treat other black people any type of way, but we brothers and sisters, so you should just get over it. No, it don't work like that. It don't work like that. That is a license to abuse and misuse people and mistreat people and ritualize people with their consent. You won't do that to me. And I really don't blame Monique for not allowing them to do that to her. But here's my question. When is Monique going to learn that those men, especially those black men in that industry, you can't trust them? The only black man you probably can trust is your husband. You can't trust them other black men. You can't trust them in that industry. Hell, I don't even trust the ones who are outside of the industry, to tell you the truth, because they've been infected. And I don't mean with a physical disease, but they've been infected with the toxic culture that we live in. Let me explain that and be specific. They've been infected with the lies and the poison that has been put out into the universe against other black people. They've been infected. So you're still thinking about them as my brothers or whatever the case may be. They're not your brothers no more. That energy is gone. That brother sister shit, that shit is gone. And it ain't coming back. At least not in this lifetime. This is what I'm talking about. The main part of the interview that really had my mouth on the floor, I mean, there were several parts of the interview that had me really in shock and awe. But when she spoke about Kevin Hart, that is what really got me. So evidently, at some point, Monique went on to Kevin Hart's podcast. I don't know when she appeared on the podcast, but nevertheless, she was on his podcast. And one of the first things he said to her was, I think of you as a mother, and I think of you as my aunt, I think of you as my mother, etc., etc., buttering her up, putting sugar on her and syrup and, cinnamon and nutmeg and everything nice, buttering her up. That's what they do, because it's been done to me as well when I was over there in the conscious community. So after that interview, there must have been a behind the scenes conversation where Kevin Hart told Monique he would reach out to Tyler Perry. Now, we all know that Monique has an issue, a big issue with Tyler Perry and Oprah Winfrey. Monique wants to get paid because she has been cheated allegedly out of a lot of money because of the false allegations that Tyler Perry made against her being difficult to work with. That caused her to lose a lot of money and a lot of projects. She talked about how the movie The Butler was supposed to be her role. And you know what? I think Monique would have been a better choice than Oprah Winfrey. Yes, I said it. Just being honest. So she said that they had a behind the scenes conversation after the podcast interview, she and Kevin Hart. And he told her, I will reach out to Tyler Perry for you and I will see what he says. Monique said, fine. So he reaches out to Tyler Perry. A couple of weeks go by. Kevin Hart calls her and said, Monique, Tyler Perry is basically Tyler ain't interested in talking to her. He don't want to revisit that. He don't want to talk to her no more. Okay? Which is the case with most people who are on a certain level financially. You know, they think they can treat people any type of way. So Kevin Hart says to Monique, but you know what, Monique? Don't worry about that. I got you. I am going to executive produce projects for you. So you just tell me what you want to do. You get with your husband, who's your manager. You get with him. Tell me what you want to do. And I will, executive produce and I will make sure that it happens for you. Okay? So Monique was like, well, I want to, start my talk show up again. He said, cool, let's do that. So he told her to go to some studio, M-Mall. I'm going to call it M-Mall Studio or production company or whatever. He told her to go there, reach out to them, tell them that, I sent you and whatever the case may be. See, that's how I know it was bullshit right there. Let me just stop right there. I knew it was bullshit right there because if it was really going to progress, he would have called the studio. He would have told them, whatever Monique needs, approve it. But he told her to call. That's how I know right there he had no intentions, Kevin Hart, he had no intentions of going through with that agreement with her. Well, it really wasn't an agreement, but he had no intentions of going through with that. So she calls the studio, M-Mall Studios. She tells them what Kevin Hart says, and they said, okay, we'll get back to you. So she said they got back to her and told her, we spoke with Kevin Hart's manager, some guy named Beecher, some shit like that. We spoke with his manager, and his manager relayed to us that Kevin Hart wants nothing to do with you. I said, what? So you mean to tell me after you're my auntie, I look at you as my auntie, I look at you as my mother? You mean to tell me that after that, now he wants nothing to do with you? So Monique is horrified, of course. She's horrified because this is her brother, right? Not physical brother, but this is your brother. She calls Kevin Hart up and says, Kevin, I just got off the phone with M-Mall Studio or whatever, or Productions, whatever. And they said that your manager, Beecher, said that you don't want anything to do with me and you're not working with me on anything. And he went into the, oh, well, it's miscommunication. I don't know. You know how they do when they get caught up in lies. You know how they do. Well, I didn't say that. Mo, that's miscommunication. But he didn't say it wasn't true. He said it was miscommunication. Miscommunication The way I interpret miscommunication is that it has elements of truth, whatever the party was saying, but they just didn't say it the way that he may have worded it. For example, if I say turn the water off at 5 p.m. in apartment A1C, okay? If I say turn the water off in apartment A1C at 5 p.m., the miscommunication would be if someone miscommunicated that, they would say that Mr. Sear said turn the water off in apartment A1C the next day at 5 o'clock. But no, I meant today. That's miscommunication. So he was basically admitting that something like that was said, but it was miscommunicated. So he said it. So my ear itch. Oh, both of them. So they hung up from that conversation, and that was 2 years ago, child. And I think I've talked to Kevin Hart since then. And I'm being facetious, but you know what I'm saying. That was 2 years ago. What I don't understand about Monique, and I'm going to say it again, I don't understand when she's going to realize you cannot force these men to accept you or embrace you. They've made their money. They don't give a damn about pulling the next one up. We don't live in that genre of each one teach one, pulling the other one up. We live back in the era of me, me, me. This is like the 1980s all over again. This is the era of me, 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 me. He buttered you up. He put sugar on you, cinnamon and nutmeg. He put all of that on you just so he could devour you because that was a ritual. They played her. He played her. They're ritualizing her. They're pulling energy from her. And I know people say that all of it is a play that she's even included on. Maybe, but I'm just speaking for entertainment purposes right now. You know? Because I see it for what it's worth. You can't trust anything that a Capricorn man tells you. Capricorn men are fucking liars and cheaters. They are liars. This is the same man, just to show, I'm talking about Kevin Hart. He's a Capricorn. This is the same man that this was years ago, maybe 13 years ago, when he was on Twitter, there was a conversation taking place about boys playing with dolls or something like that. He said, and these were his words, that if he caught his son playing with a doll, he would take the doll house and break it over his son's head. These are his words. Now, I understand fathers don't want their sons being effeminate. I understand that. And any straight men that watch me, this ain't no, I'm not trying to tell you you should let your sons play with dolls. That ain't my place. But I'm making a point about his character. And the straight black men, I know it's a lot of straight black men that watch me. I want you to listen to something. I want you to listen to something because Kevin Hart makes you all look bad. He's supposed to be a representation for straight black male masculinity, right? He's friends with Ellen DeGeneres, a gay woman. He goes on to Andy Cohen's show and allowed a gay man to ask him, what is your penis size? Now, if I do that to a straight black man, I'm going to be in a world of trouble. Me and that dude probably going to be fighting. But I would never do that because I know that there's certain boundaries you don't cross. The reason that I'm bringing this up is because I don't understand how Monique can trust the words of a man who would commit a violent act, who openly admitted, and I've talked about this before, who openly admitted that he would commit a violent act against his child if he caught him playing with a doll. This is the same man that went on to Andy Cohen's show and let a gay man, Andy Cohen, say to him, Kevin, I heard you had a big penis. How big is it? But yet you're supposed to be the representation for black masculinity? This is if the straight black men that are watching me, this is the type of stuff that you all have to contend with. I just want you to know what he does. So I don't understand how Monique thought she could trust anything coming from somebody like him. I've never found Kevin Hart to be funny, to be honest with you. I've never found him to be funny. I've never found him to be all that entertaining. You know, never. I'm just being honest. I don't know how he's the most well-known comedian worldwide. I don't know. I don't know how he got to that status. Maybe because he bumped Eddie Murphy out the way, because Eddie Murphy is surely not Eddie Murphy anymore. In my opinion. These men are not your brothers anymore. They don't operate on code like that. Kevin Hart is my age. Kevin Hart is my age. I think he and I are around the same age. He's 44, 43, 44. He's part of my generation. And my generation is fucked up. It's fucked up. And I can admit that. It's fucked up. And it's not about him selling out and all that type of stuff. People always like to use that term. It's not about him selling out. It's just who he is. He don't have nothing to sell. He don't have anything to sell. People talking about selling their soul. He don't have a soul to sell. He had no intentions of helping Monique. He had no intentions of working with Monique. That was all done for ritualistic purposes when she was on that podcast. That is how they butter you up. You're my mother. You're my sister. And while we're having this conversation, can we please stop with this auntie and uncle stuff? Don't call me your uncle if I'm not your uncle. Okay? If I'm not your uncle, don't call me no uncle. Now, I don't mind like play little brother or something like that because that doesn't carry as much obligation and responsibility. But I ain't nobody's uncle. I'm not the uncle for the community. I'm not nobody's auntie, definitely. I'm none of that. I'm none of that. I have nieces and nephews. They can call me uncle. But all of this cultural auntie, uncle, mama stuff, if you're not my mother, I ain't calling you no mom. If you're not my aunt, I'm not calling you no auntie. If you're not my uncle, I'm not calling you no uncle. And that is where the self-deception comes in. And Monique talks about we have to teach the younger babies how to act. Well, the first thing that you need to teach them is to not look up to people that they don't know, because everybody does not deserve that type of reverence. And that is one of the main problems that we have as a community of people in general. And it has nothing to do with race. Everybody does not deserve to be treated like a so-called elder. How can he call Monique, talking about Monique is his mama? Monique, you're like my mother. How is it that he can say that, Kevin Hart? How is it that he can say that? But Monique is only 12 years older than him. And I know girls can get pregnant at that age, but I'm just saying she's really not old enough to be your mother, in normal terms. Why are they always trying to make every single black woman the mother of the community? That is a big burden to carry. And I don't think that black women should have to carry that burden of being no auntie of no fucking community. And that is what Monique's problem is. Monique, you're carrying a burden that you shouldn't have to carry. That is why your career is not taking off. You keep looking for something in these men when there's nothing there. There's nothing there. There's nothing there. There was nothing there with Steve Harvey, another Capricorn. There's nothing there with Kevin Hart. There's nothing there with Tyler Perry. And you notice the people that you keep having interactions with who've disappointed you, they've been Capricorns, Virgos. Steve Harvey is a Capricorn. Tyler Perry is a Virgo. And if a Virgo don't fuck with you, we don't fuck with you. It's simple as that, even though Tyler Perry did her wrong. But Tyler Perry may be a Virgo, but he operates more in Pisces, the shadow side of the Virgo. So she's really dealing with a Pisces. But he's dipping in and out of Capricorn too. Because see, as an August Virgo, I don't have a problem telling somebody to fuck off. I'll tell them to their face. I'll tell them on the phone. I don't have a problem with that. If I don't fuck with you, I'm going to tell you to fuck off and leave me alone. I don't have a problem with that at all. But Tyler Perry, he's playing peekaboo. The only one that gave you some grace was Lee Daniels. That is how I know the fact that Lee Daniels, and I don't even know how much of that is even credible, because that movie Deliverance, that to me, Monique could have been put in something better than that. I know a lot of people liked it, and I'm assuming a lot of people liked it because of the fact Monique was headlining the movie, and she had not been in anything in a very long time. But I really didn't like that movie. I didn't like it. I just thought that the acting was subpar, and I thought that the Monique's part was just one dimensional. I think it was similar to, I'm drinking some water. I think it was similar to the Mary role that she played in Precious. But none of those men are going to give you what you need. They're not going to help you. And I'm going to say this too. Be careful, even with Shannon Sharpe as well. Because black men, they're not loyal. I'm sorry. Most black men, and the ones I've run across, they're not loyal. I only have a few loyal black male friends in my life. But other than that, black men are not loyal, especially in that industry, and especially if it has anything to do with money. They're not loyal. I don't trust them. I mean, not for me. I'm talking about for Monique. Even with Shannon Sharpe, you shouldn't put all your trust in him. There's something about his character that's just not right either. I like the interview, but it's just something kind of off about him, and I don't give a fuck who that offends. It's just something it's just something off. You can't put your trust in these people. You got to put your trust in spirit, God, and the universe. That's what you got to put your trust in. She keeps putting her trust in men, flawed men. When Kevin Hart told her to reach out for that studio, to reach out to that studio, I knew then, I said, he put her in a trick bag. Because any man that's going to help you, they're going to call the studio and they're going to get the ball rolling for you. because Monique's name is not going to open up doors for people, but Kevin Hart's name will. That is how I knew it was on some bullshit. And she should have known that too. She also said that Kevin Hart loaned her and her husband some money when they were having a hard time. And she paid him back. Allegedly. I'm gonna say allegedly because I don't know if she paid him back or not. But she says she paid him back. But I think Monique needs to wake up to the world that we live in and not the world that we lived in before. The world before is gone. The world before is gone. I could not imagine, let me just say this on a side note. I could not imagine trying to date in the world that we have now. I could not imagine. I could not imagine trying to find even a sex partner in the world that we have now. I could not even imagine that because of how disconnected and how fucked up people are. And I mean black people, white people, Spanish people, any type of people. I'm not all people. These new groups of people, and it doesn't matter what their ages are. We're not just going to put this all on millennials and Gen Zs. No, 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 no. Because in actuality, the ones that actually be trying to talk to me sometimes are Gen Zs and millennials. But I'm too old for them, and I let them know that up front. The youngest, if I was looking, the youngest that I would really go is maybe 35. You know, anything under that, I'm kind of not interested in that. But 35, because I'm 44, I can do 35. But 20s, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Monique said that a lot of the men, she said that real black men, they date all types of women, all shapes, all types. And she's absolutely right about that. But these groups of men that are coming up now, these groups of men that are coming up now, and yes, I'm a gay man speaking on that. The groups of men that are coming up now, they are trash. And they're no fucking good. That is why so many of them are alone. Because word on the curb is Kevin Samuels was not what he pretended to be. Stuff is coming out about him now. And I don't give a fuck who gets mad about it. You never saw him with a woman, but yet he was always trying to tell women what they should and should not do and how they should and should not fucking be. It's always the men who are the most critical that don't have nobody. They ain't got no woman. They ain't got nobody. They're not in a relationship. So how the fuck you gonna give somebody else advice on a relationship when you are not in one? I mean, you could, but he was being critical, nasty, and disrespectful. But everything that Monique talked about, it is a sign of the times. It is a result of the culture that we live in. We're not living back then where we're brothers and sisters. We're working out together. I'm not working out, but we're working together to help pull one another up. And then let me say this too. What Monique is asking for and the support that she's asking for, how is that going to help the black community at large? How is that going to, it's only going to put money in you and Sydney's pocket. So why should we keep helping you? That's another flip side to it. Why should we keep sending you positive energy when half of us out here can barely afford to feed ourselves sometimes? And I'm not saying me personally, but it's rough out here. Shit, I went to the grocery store the other day. My cart was barely full. Guess how much that shit came to? Damn near $300. Damn near $300. But I respect the fact that she's speaking up and exposing shit and being real. I get that. I get that. No problem with that. But you should have known, or she should, well, I'm not going to say she should have known. Maybe she doesn't know, to be fair. But I knew, and I've known for a long time, that Kevin Hart wasn't shit. How can you trust a man that allows gay men to ask him how big his penis is, but then he makes a public statement that he would take a dollhouse and break it over his son's head if he caught his son playing with a doll? But you're okay with you're supposed to be heterosexual, but you're okay with Andy Cohen asking you your penis size. Make that make sense for me. Make that make sense. And I'm not advocating for boys to play with dolls. Let me just say that right now as a disclaimer. I am not advocating for that. I don't have any children, and I'm not advising people on how to raise their children. That is an arena that I don't have nothing to do with, and I'm not advising people on how to raise their kids. I'm just making the point. He threatened to commit a violent act against his child because he doesn't want his child to be gay. I don't have an issue with him not wanting his child to be gay. But you're over here letting a gay man ask you how big your penis is. And nobody has a problem with that? There are no questions about that? And and Monique expects somebody like that to keep their word? Somebody that's living in all of that deception and chaos that Kevin Hart lives in? I don't want to know how big his penis is. I don't want to know. I thought that Andy Cohen was going to have him on there and ask him about some of the homophobic things. I thought he was going to put him on the hot seat. But he didn't do that. And it makes you really look at Andy Cohen sideways. How could you have someone on your show, a guest, that you know has made homophobic remarks in the past? Now, I really don't give a damn about the homophobic remarks to be personally or whatever. I don't care nothing about that. But I'm just asking a question because I don't have no stake in this fight. I don't have no dog in this race. But I'm just looking at things in this perspective of how everyone accepts all of these different things with no questions. And these are the people that we're looking up to? Absolutely. Absolutely. I just don't understand, when is Monique going to get it that these men are not your brothers. They're not their sister's keeper. You cannot force them to see things your way. You cannot force them to accept you. You cannot force them to help you. They don't want anything to do with you. Because when you are a person that speaks truth, you are considered an enemy of the state. Monique, you're an enemy of the state. You are an enemy of the state because you went against the Hollywood grain and you did not allow them to ritualize you. You did not allow them to abuse you. Now, you did allow them to ritualize you in that movie Precious, but you didn't know. That Mary Johnson person, that's a real motherfucking spirit that they put on you. And I still see that spirit on you. I see you. It's kind of dying down now. I'm starting to see you be a little bit more grounded, a little bit. I'm starting to see that, but I still see remnants of that Mary person attached to you. Now, that's the real reason her career went down the tube. See, when things are happening to people in the spirit, it's subconscious. So they don't recognize it. But see, me being a, how can I put it? Me being a spiritual being and a multidimensional being, I can recognize those things. See, Monique was her best when she was playing Nikki Parker on the Parkers. That is when she was at her best. And I'm not talking about in terms of her personal life, but I'm talking about in terms of her acting. Nikki Parker was happy. She was fun. You know what I mean? She was everything that Monique is not now. So once she got that role of Mary, that totally changed her. So when Tyler Perry and Oprah and all of them are dealing with her, or not dealing with her in her case, they're not looking at her as Monique. They're looking at her as Mary, the mother from hell and Precious. And what they did was, and this is what makes these people so evil and just so sinister sometimes. They used what they pulled from. They used the fact that Monique's oldest child, her oldest son, I believe it's a son, he doesn't speak to her. There's a disconnect between her and her oldest son. And that is what they pull from in that ritual against her. So once again, I knew that Kevin Hart had no intentions of helping her. I knew he had no intentions of helping her. And at this point, I don't know if her career will ever get back on track. And I hate to say it because I do not really care for him that much. DL Hughley, I don't care for DL Hughley like that because I think he's a very disrespectful he's a Pisces. And Pisces men can be very disrespectful and very nasty until you really have to check them. It takes me to dig in their ass. But she and DL Hughley are beefing again because of what she said about him on Shay Shay's in the Shay Shay interview. And he made a comment that her Netflix comedy show that Monique did, that it got the worst reviews. It wasn't that great. And you know what? I'm going to be totally honest with you. DL is not lying. He's not lying. That comedy show on Netflix, it wasn't all that great. And it's not because Monique is not a great comedian. It's not because Monique is not talented. It's just because, how can I put it? Monique is she's too much in pain. And a lot of times the pain can overshadow the talent. You know what I'm saying? She has a right to be in pain and she has a right to express that in her artistry, which is, being a comedian. She has a right to express that. But it just the only part that was good was the last part of the show when she was describing her lesbian proclivities. Let's just say that. That was kind of funny. That was kind of funny. But the show in and of itself, it wasn't that great. It wasn't that great. I liked her more. I like her more when she's playing characters like Nikki Parker. Now, Nikki Parker was funny. Nikki Parker, the Parkers was funny. And she's still fighting a battle financially with that. You know? She's still fighting a battle with that. The Parkers, from what I understand, made $800 million according to Monique. And she said that whatever production company that was producing it at that time, now they're trying to tell her that no, um, the Parkers didn't make any money. So it's like, from the way I look at it, Monique has been, people have taken advantage of her in the industry. She's been taken advantage of, you know. No question about it. She has been ritualized by that industry. She's been used by that industry, and they've taken her money. They haven't paid her money. They've robbed her. Monique is a casualty. She's a tragedy in this industry. And I don't say that to be mean. I'm saying that with compassion. And they do this to a lot of women, especially a lot of black women. But they do it to women in general. They do it to white women too. One of the saddest stories, one of the saddest stories that a lot of people don't know about a Hollywood star is of, what's her name? Is the story of Anna Mae Wong. I believe she was the first Chinese um, international, American international superstar, if I'm not mistaken. That is one of the saddest stories. You all should look up Anna Mae Wong. She died so tragically young. She was only in her early 50s when she died, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe mid 50s. Hollywood did her dirty. They did Anna Mae Wong dirty. Look up Anna Mae Wong. She went through a lot of racism and prejudice and discrimination in Hollywood as well. Look up Anna Mae Wong. And I still say another actress and singer that they did wrong was Nell Carter. And I've always thought that Monique should play Nell Carter. I've always thought Monique should play Nell Carter. To me, she was like another Nell Carter. They did Nell Carter dirty too. But anyway, that's all I have to say, child. I just wanted to give my take on the little Shay Shay interview with Monique. And it was a good interview. That was a fight. I watched the whole thing. And she talked about a lot of different things. Of course, most of the interview was surrounding her beef with Tyler Perry and Oprah Winfrey. But it never gets boring listening to her talk about that, because we always find out a new detail. You know what I'm saying? Like the part where Oprah told her hairdresser, the one that just passed away, I'm not paying her nothing. But y'all think that Oprah liked black women, right? Look at how she treated the cast of the current Color Purple cast. Huh. Look at everything that's coming out about that. Oprah don't give a fuck about nobody but herself. Anyway, that's all I have to say. People work hard for their money. You know, people work hard for their money, and people deserve to be paid for their money. And I feel bad for Taraji P. Henson. I do. I feel bad for what she has had to go through and endure and endure, like a lot of black women in this industry. I feel bad for her. I have compassion for her because she does have talent. You know. But anyway, go and check out the interview that Shannon Sharp did with Monique, Club Shay Shay. Go check out that interview. It is dynamite. It is fire. Go and check it out. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.